G of ICCR and Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Cultural Corporation. I would like to give a special thanks to my Women Achiever Award, Dr. Indrani Ramaprasad. She is our Women Achiever Awardee for last Parvasi Bharatiya Divas. She is deeply connected with Indian soil, her country of origin, and does lot of social activities, promote lot of women economic activities, and done lot of research on Ramayana. I would also like to thank our most dynamic person who has started this kind of a VC, Shri Dipankar Gyanji. He's still trying to connect, director of GSDS, but there is some connectivity issue. I think he'll be soon with us. I would also like to thank this whole VC will be taken forward by Dr. Uh, Vedabhyas Kunduji, who's a master on this subject, and he will take us through that during this COVID situation, unforeseen situation which have nobody has thought, and how to fight this kind of a situation, how to come out of it while we are still, fighting. And this virus, coronavirus, COVID 19, is as invisible as our challenges are today. Through this, we see Mr. Vedavyas Kundu will take us and introduce us the how to, especially our children, our youngsters, our society, our country, and the universe as whole, how to cope up with this situation, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, because everybody, especially children and youth, is so confused. We are confused how to come out of it. This VC was the brainchild of Dipankar Shri Gyanji, and we will be introducing Mahatma Gandhi's approach towards non-violent communication, and to keep all the channels and efforts open for the communication to resolve conflict and dispute. Today's VC uh, will introduce us how to practice non-violent communication in a daily life. I will now invite Mr. Dr. Vedavyas Kunduji to formally welcome our chief guest, uh, Commissioner of the High Commissioner of India to Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Mr. Arun Kumar Sahu. Over to Dr. Kundu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening from India, and a very great good morning to everyone in the Caribbean, the Trinidad and Tobago. It is really a great honor that Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Samiti, the National Memorial of Mahatma Gandhi, in fact, the only Government of India institution on Mahatma Gandhi, to collaborate, to work with the Indian High Commission in Trinidad and Tobago, the Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Cultural Cooperation as part of ICCR, and the Beti and Siksha Foundation, to this very, very important e-conference on how we can practice non-violent communication in our daily lives. In fact, as we will travel through this whole e-conference for the next 1 hour or so, before that, our highly esteemed and honored and respected High Commissioner in Trinidad and Tobago, His Excellency Mr. Arun Kumar Sahu. In fact, before we request him to share his thoughts, let me introduce him here. His Excellency Mr. Arun Kumar Sahu had joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1996. He had assumed the charge of the High Commissioner of India to Trinidad and Tobago in September 2019. Earlier, he was the Deputy High Commissioner of India to Canada. And previous to that, in New Delhi, he had served as the Joint Secretary, the Director General, heading the Division of Development Partnership Administration, Deputy Director General of the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, Director North, Nepal and Bhutan, and Under Secretary, China. As a diplomat, His Excellency has served in the Indian Embassy in Beijing twice, London, and Tehran. He holds a master's degree in War in Modern World for King's College, London, and master's degree in linguistics from the Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. Sir, it is a great privilege to be associated with the Indian High Commission in Trinidad and Tobago, and I really look forward that we will have more such programs in the future also. And in fact, this whole pandemic has given, whereas it has brought us new challenges, but also it has brought in new opportunities. Possibly we could not have probably thought of having such kind of a e-conference probably without minus the pandemic. So it has also given us a lot of opportunities to learn the new things. So may I request His Excellency, Mr. Arun Kumar Sahu, sir, to please inaugurate this e-conference. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that generous introduction. Good morning to all of you, all participants in this part of the world, and good evening to all of you in India. I am extremely happy to be part of this webinar, Practicing Nonviolent Communication in Our Daily Lives, organized in collaboration with Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Samiti, Beti and Shiksha Foundation of Delhi, and Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Cultural Cooperation. As humanity fights coronavirus pandemic, this webinar is a timely initiative. I thank all volunteers for making the effort to organize this virtual event. In 2007, as you know, the United Nations declared 2nd October as International Day of Nonviolence to coincide with the birthday of Gandhiji. Last year was Gandhiji's 150th birth anniversary. The Government of India is celebrating the event with a 2-year celebration beginning last year through this year, intending to spread Gandhiji's ideals and philosophies to a global audience. Gandhiji's teachings revolves around the Indian concept of Satya, which is truth, and Ahimsa, which is non-violence. The principles applicable to all living things in the world. Truth and non-violence are not merely theoretical concepts. They have to do with everything one thinks, says, and does. They are tools for external control of one's actions and internal cleansing of one's thoughts. They are the basis of our claimed moral and religious existence. According to Gandhiji, one cannot be untruthful, cruel, or incontinent and claim to have God on one side. Human history is replete with turmoil with both within and in the world outside. Therefore, all of us are in a constant state of internal struggle to keep up external equilibrium. And in this state of flux, what makes our existence simpler is our motives. As Gandhiji says, the moment there is suspicion about a person's motives, everything he does becomes tainted. And tainted action galvanizes a spiral of immoral actions, triggering existential complications. Gandhiji's ideals have liberated not only a nation, but also millions of minds. And I'm sure they will continue to guide human thought and action for a fair, just, and humane existence of all people. Gandhiji's ideas are not bound to only Indians, but have a relevance for everyone in the world. There is not a religion on the earth that teaches violence towards another living thing, and violence could never be a tool in balancing power. And we must do all possible to protect the marginalized, the disadvantaged, and the vulnerables. I hope today's discussion will help more people understand, appreciate, and follow Gandhiji's ideals for a better world for tomorrow. Thank you, and thank you once again for helping putting this webinar in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, sir, for your profound statement and profound observation. Before we start formally the presentation for the day, may I request Renu ma'am to kindly introduce the chair for the day, Madam Indrani, Pandita Indrani ji.
No, I can't hear.
Your voice is not audible, ma'am. Madam, your voice is not audible. Hello, ma'am.
मैम योर माइक इज सर उनको बोलिए माइक ऑफ है सर उनका
हाँ नहीं मगर हाउ डू आई टेल हर हेलो मैम
में सर स्क्रीन पे टच करने पे क्लिक करने पर माइक का ऑप्शन आएगा सर
नो हर या बट देन शी इज नॉट एबल टू कम ma'am can you hear us your voice is not audible Madam,
can you hear me
audible?
Now? Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, namaste. Yeah, namaste. I'm so sorry. Let me say thank you very much, Renuji, our High Commissioner, very beloved High Commissioner in Trinidad. We hold him very dear to our hearts. He brings an India to us that is full of pride and dignity. Thank you very much. And so we're very happy to be exposed to this form of communication. Renuji was saying because of lockdown, there is domestic violence increased because of lockdown. And so we really need to understand how to meet those needs and how to communicate without violence. And besides the domestic, at the global level, we are seeing, an uprising in violence, a violent method of trying to get your point across and trying to represent yourself. And this message of Gandhiji is most timely. I'm so pleased to be associated with this, and I hope that we are going to continue this around the world. We need it. Thank you very much.
Now, I would like to invite Veda Vyas ji to start the webinar and introduce people to the practicing non-violent communication in our daily lives during such a situation which all of us we are facing, that is coronavirus and COVID-19. Veda ji, can you please take over?
Yes, please. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone, for this support and this coming together. It is such an important topic, as Indrani ma'am rightly talked about. A lot of hatred going on, violence. So what is the way out? Because the fulcrum is communication. And because the fulcrum is communication and we are communicating at every moment of our life, what should be the strategy to counter these all these issues like hate speech, hate narratives, violence, etc., etc. So in that context, the importance of non-violent communication is very, very critical. And also, it is important because we need to be less stressful, we need to be happy, and we need to work together, especially in the context of the pandemic. Before we start this whole idea of what exactly is non-violent communication and how we can practice it in our daily lives, let me start this whole session with this beautiful, profound quote of the famous African leader, Nelson Mandela. Madiba, as he was leaving the prison, where he was there for 27 years, he made a profound statement. He said, "As I stand before the door to my freedom, I realize that if I do not leave my pain, anger, and bitterness behind me, I will still be in prison. That's a powerful statement, and it can be said it is a powerful statement vis-a-vis non-violent communication. Holding grudges does not make you strong, it makes you bitter. Forgiveness does not make you weak, it sets you free. So, the important point is let's not imprison ourselves forever. Madiba was a follower of Gandhi. And as we are talking of non-violent communication, Gandhi was one of the greatest proponents of non-violent communication. And let us rewind back to 1914 when Gandhiji started the Champaran Satyagraha. He was there in Champaran to inquire into the condition of the agriculturists and understand their grievances against the illegal planters. In fact, when he decided to go... Hello, can you please mute the mic of the participants, please? Yes, thank you very much. So as I said, as Gandhiji set forth to go to the villages to inquire on the first day, he was supposed to go when he was supposed to go to that particular village, a police messenger came and served him a notice to leave Champaran. Acknowledging the notice, he wrote that he did not propose to comply with it till his inquiry was over. Thereupon, Gandhiji was served for summons for trials for disobeying the orders. If we critically, as I'm a student of communication, and if we critically look and analyze Gandhiji's statement during the trial the next day, we will see how it is linked, how important is non-violent communication. Let us analyze that. Gandhiji was making his point, and he was very firmly in his point, yet there was no aggression in his posture. He said he appreciated the difficulty of the administration. If we read his autobiography, it's a vivid exposition of what his statement that he made in the trial court. He said, as a law-abiding citizen, his first instinct would be, as it was, to obey the order served upon him. But, as he writes in his autobiography, I could not do so without violence to my sense of duty for those for whom I have come. He had come for the agriculturists in Champaran. In fact, what was the result? Here you see, we must critically look at the ways and how, when we use non-violent communication, what is the end result. In his autobiography, again, he says, before he could appear before the court to receive the sentence, the case was withdrawn against him, and he was told that he was at liberty to conduct the proposed inquiry, and that, as he quotes in his autobiography, I might count on whatever help I needed from the officials. This is the power of non-violent communication, making connections, transforming the attitude of one's adversary towards you. So here, his whole life, Gandhiji's life, was in different forms at different places, how he used different strategies of non-violent communication. It is for us to learn how, say, Nelson Mandela used his approach of use of non-violent communication. This is for us to learn. We have another important aspect when we talk of Martin Luther King, how he used his tools of non-violent communication. That is for us to learn. And here, we should not think that there were great leaders like Gandhi, King, or Madiba, that they could use the power of non-violent communication. And we, as simple common people, it is beyond our abilities to use non-violent communication. No, it is not. In fact, if we consciously try to imbibe their ideals, we will be able to contribute towards a culture of peace. It is very doable, and as we will move towards today's session, travel towards today's session, we will see how we can actually use it how simple it is to use non-violent communication in our daily lives. In fact, as we are sitting today and we are having this interesting e-conference on in Google Meet, here it is the power of technology. In fact, we are living in a situation of a hyper-technological environment and media penetration. In fact, media and different tools of communication has penetrated in all aspects of our life. In fact, it is true, as we are seeing, we are able to have a meeting with the High Commission of Trinidad and Tobago over the internet. It is true that the development of information technology has presented enormous opportunities for people to forge new connections. We are able to connect out, cutting across culture, cutting across barriers, cutting across everything. However, there are situations where relations which are formed online, probably they lack the human face, and possibly they are limited to being anonymous. They're depersonalized exchanges. In fact, there is always the contentions and contestation on use of technology and how technology is able to transform our lives. And as we say, as we are having such series of webinars all around, there are always negative issues. Whereas on the one hand, we are able to forge new connections. On the other hand, there are people who are using technology to promote hatred. There are people who are promoting radicalization, so on and so forth. In fact, due to this whole situation, the United Nations last year in June launched a UN plan of action and framework of action to counter hate speech. And in fact, in the context of all countries of the world, they thought there should be a plan of action which will be a focus on a fundamental aspect on how we can challenge the different narratives which promotes hatred. In fact, way back in 1995, there was this very senior director of the UNESCO Basic Education Division, Victor Ortonage. He had a very interesting statement. We can create experts in information technologies, yet it seems we are unable to improve the capacity for listening, for tolerance, for respecting diversity, for making the most of people's potential for the social good, or for spreading of fundamental ethics, without which neither skills nor knowledge will be of any benefit to us. It is so true. We have crossed different boundaries, we have crossed different situations, but the present situation where we are all in the mad race towards a materialistic culture, probably we are missing something. We are missing the power to listen to people. We are missing the power to be tolerant. We are missing the power of respecting diversity and making the best of people's potential for contributing or constructive work in the society. So in that context, it is so important that we must look, for instance, let me tell you, for instance, when we are all adept at using the social media in such a big way, more than ever before. But just think of a situation there, and when people like Victor Ortonage, or there is this famous French philosopher who talks about frozen communication, there is something like someone has passed away and someone posts in the Facebook and you will say hundreds of likes. So without thinking, without pausing, without, how can anyone's death can be liked? But that is something which is happening when we say that it's a frozen communication, when it is saying that it's a communication which is bereft of thinking. It is something also, the most important thing, as the famous peace scholar Dr. Daisaku Ikeda has said, that in spite of the enormous increase of technology, what we are facing today is the lack of soul-to-soul communication. Why soul-to-soul communication is important? Because there is so much of aggression in many of us. There is so much of situation where we want to cut each other through and think that we are most powerful or we are better than the others. So that soul-to-soul communication is something which I think is missing. And what is important is how we can promote or encourage such soul-to-soul communication. And also, especially in the context of the pandemic, it's so important that how we can promote human solidarity, because importance of human solidarity is more than ever before. In fact, as all different parts of the world, different countries across the world are, in the situation of some countries are in lockdown, some countries are in the process of unlock, but each and every country are facing the problem of the pandemic. So in that context, there is the importance of human solidarity. And what is human solidarity? To be concerned about each other, to work together as one humanity. The other day, I was having a very profound conversation. In fact, she promised to come in probably because of technical issues. There could be a problem or time lapse. This peace scholar from Senegal, Mariama Dong, she expressed concern about how, of the pandemic situation, and she was asking about India, and she was telling about her own country and the whole human concern that you be very careful of while going out, or you be take care of your family. Those kind of statements, that's human solidarity. What is important today is how we can use tools of communication to promote human solidarity. Esteemed participants, there is a famous Nobel laureate, the Argentine peace activist. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1980, Adolfo Pérez Esquivel. In fact, Adolfo Pérez Esquivel, in his acceptance speech, the Nobel Prize acceptance speech, had talked and stressed on the need to build a society in which peace is the foundation of life. He said in his acceptance speech, "We must reach out our hands fraternally without hatred and rancor for reconciliation and peace, with unfaltering determination in the defense of truth and justice. We know we cannot plant seeds with closed fists." It is how we can work together, human solidarity, and we can promote human solidarity when there is a communication, when there is meaningful mutual communication. That is something which is important, and that is the challenge before us. In fact, when he's talking about people coming together and building a society in which peace is the foundation of life, I am reminded of this beautiful quote by Mahatma Gandhi. And he says that only individual efforts for peace will lead to a cohesive societal efforts. And as Gandhi says, the world will live in peace only when the individuals composing it make up their minds to do so. So, esteemed participants, it is up to us how we can contribute to the culture of peace. And only each one of us, when we join hands together individually, we will be able to promote a cohesive earth. We will be able to contribute to a cohesive planet. So, in that context, how we can contribute to a cohesive planet? Only through strategies and tools like that of non-violent communication. There is this beautiful statement by UNESCO in 2013, again in the context of peace, when UNESCO says, "Peace should never be taken for granted. It is an ongoing process, a long-term goal which requires constant engineering, vigilance, and active participation by all individuals. It is a choice to be made on each situation and everyday life decision to engage in sincere dialogue with other individuals and communities, whether they live a block or a click away." So that means the underlying message is that how we can engage in sincere dialogues with other individuals and communities. We can, esteemed participants, can engage in sincere dialogue with individuals and communities only when we have a meaningful communication. And there lies the importance of non-violent communication, which is extremely critical to contribute towards a culture of peace. let us go back and see how another great follower of Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and what he says on the importance of nonviolence. Martin Luther King says that nonviolence is the relentless pursuit of truthful ends through moral means. In fact, as King says, that nonviolence is something that frustrates the opponent. It exposes his moral defense, it weakens his morale, and at the same time, it works on his conscience. When we use nonviolent communication, and especially when there is a conflict or differences of opinion, as we will see later towards the end, in the next phase of this session, how through nonviolent communication we will be able to reach out to our adversary, as we saw of Gandhi in Champaran. What is important here, as we can see from Gandhi, King, and Madiba, and others like Daisaku Ikeda and others, that it is imperative that our communication ecosystem, now we come to the importance of communication ecosystem. Communication ecosystem, both within ourselves and outside, how important it is to be non-violent in nature for a peaceful living, for our happiness, for our joy. Because at the end of the day, each one of us are searching for that elusive happiness, and how if our communication ecosystem is non-violent in nature, it will lead to greater happiness and less stress. Here, esteemed participants, it would be worthwhile to introduce this very, very apt and relevant quote of the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, when he says that when we say something that nourishes us and uplifts the people around us, we are feeding love and compassion. That means when we are saying something which is good, which is love and compassion, it not only nourishes us, it uplifts the people around us. When we speak and act in a way that causes tension and anger, we are nourishing violence and suffering. So it's very clear. If we are using healthy communication, so we will be ourselves get nourished and will be uplifting the others. In fact, the words we say are nourishment. We can use words that will nourish ourselves and nourish another person. What you say, what you write should convey only compassion and understanding. Your words can inspire confidence and openness in another person. That's so important. It's so important. Let's look at the words that we use in our daily life, the language that we use. In fact, friends, the essence or the origin of nonviolent communication can be traced from the Buddhist, culture ways, and as an important aspect of nonviolent communication is what Buddha says, when Buddha says that words hold power that can be used to instigate. Words have both the power to destroy and heal. When words are both true and kind, they can change our world. So, friends, it's so important to really look at critically on the words or the language that we are using, because as Lord Buddha says, it has the power to both destroy and heal. And when words are both true and kind, they can change our world. So hence, it is important that we require non-violent communication, and our communication, because our communication helps mold our realities. And as a student of communication, we are told that we cannot not communicate the basic definition of communication. So let us, if we realize that what we're communicating, it is molding our realities, our perspectives, and our emotions. In fact, it makes us to feel more connected to each other. When we are using healthy communication, we are able to connect with each other. And in fact, what we are communicating, it is a reflection of the inner workings of our mind. Because first we are thinking, and once we are thinking, then we are communicating. So because everything that we communicate, it originates from the contents of our mind. So it's so important. Communication is so critical in our world. In fact, there is another beautiful quote by Solomon who says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." Here, so it is clear that how we are able to use language, because day in and day out in today's world we see that we end up using unhealthy communication, many of us, because of the mad race for competition, because of so many different external factors. We are always, there is a lot of turmoil within us, and we could end up, indulging in unhealthy communication. In fact, many times we are not even conscious about it. We are not conscious on what kind of communication we are using, how we are conversing with our friends, how we are conversing with our people in the office or where we are studying and things like that. In fact, most of the time, again, it is our ego, the feelings of hegemony that I am the superior person, differences with others, our own life conditions. And there are many other reasons, which could be reasons where we use unhealthy communication, unhealthy communication. Also, we find that because of this whole situation that we are there in this modern world, we are lacking somehow the patience to listen to others. And we find that we are not self-aware, and knowingly or unknowingly, we find in many situations we get into petty talks or use words that can cause suffering. And when we are using such kind of words, when we are using such kind of language, then it is going to hurt us also and the others also. So here comes the essence of non-violent communication, because non-violent communication helps us to understand the interconnection between the self and the others, the whole idea of human interdependence. Friends, before we talk on what exactly is nonviolent communication and its elements in the last part of this whole idea, when we are, developed a grounding of the importance of nonviolent communication, it is so critical to see and look at the foundation of nonviolent communication ecosystem. For any ecosystem, it's so important that it has a very strong foundation. And the foundation of the non-violent communication ecosystem is what we call as the 5 pillars of Gandhian non-violence. In fact, these 5 pillars of Gandhian non-violence have been beautifully described by this book by his grandson Arun Gandhi in the book The Gift of Anger. And he, in fact, elaborates these 5 pillars of Gandhian non-violence. And let us look at that. And let us try to, as we are talking, let us try to, self-introspect. Let us try to see within ourselves how we can practice it in our daily lives. And let me tell you, they're not very difficult to practice. Many people, when we conduct workshops, Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Samiti, in fact, has been conducting these kind of workshops for a variety of stakeholders, right from the judicial officers to police, to teachers, to youth and children. And many times there are students especially who will say that it's so difficult to, follow what these peace apostles have taught us, because they seem to be quite complicated. But when we start with this basic, very fundamental 5 pillars of non-violence, then they feel that it's not very difficult, not very complicated to follow. The first and foremost is respect, mutual respect. And when we are talking of these 5 pillars of Gandhian non-violence, let us remember that what Gandhi was talking was of human interdependence. The interdependence between the human beings, nature, and all other living beings. In fact, as we are sitting in this pandemic and we are trying to introspect on what has gone wrong, how we have been treating the nature, how we are treating the environment, and the whole impact of the various environmental degradation, climate change, etc., etc., we must remember that what is important is to imbibe and to nurture and to realize that we are all interdependent. Human beings are not the superior beings on this planet Earth. We are part of the cosmos. We are only one species. There are other species and the nature there. So when we are talking of these 5 pillars, let us remember that we must think of that we are all interdependent. So the first and foremost is respect. So respect means not just for other human beings, but for the nature and also the other living beings. Essentially, when we are talking of respect or mutual respect, is that key, when we respect each other, then you see most of the differences start because we probably don't respect each other. So it becomes much easier. It's simple. And when we try to introspect in for our daily lives, it is not very difficult, because let us start with the simplest thing. Let us respect each other, and let us not just respect each other human being, let us respect the nature and other living beings. And then we will find that there is a lot of transformation that we are going through. So when we respect each other, and it leads to the second stage or the second pillar, that it will be easy for us to understand the other person. It is easy for us to understand what the other person wants to say. So respect leads to understanding. And basically, when we are talking on that, respect and understanding of other people is the only way the world can go forward. If we put walls and divisions, it will always backfire in the end. And there will be, when there is no respect, when there is no understanding, it will lead to anger, it will lead to rebellion, it will lead to violence. In contrast, when we respect and understand each other, we naturally evolve to the third pillar, that is acceptance. And what is acceptance? The ability to accept others' views and positions. And when we are able to accept others' views and positions, it allows us to grow stronger and wiser. And the other two pillars of Gandhian nonviolence: appreciation, positive appreciation. Because you see, we are many times entrapped by the negative emotions and trapped by the negative energies. So what is critical is that let us appreciate the positive things around us, so that there is a positive energy that we are able to generate. And when there is positive energy around us, we will also motivate others to be positive, and we will be able to contribute to constructive work. And the last pillar is extremely critical in today's world, that is compassion. Feeling for the pains and concerns of others. And compassion, again, when we are talking, it is not just for other human beings, but for the nature, and compassion for other living beings. So these five are all interdependent, they're all interrelated, and these form the foundation of non-violent communication ecosystem. And in fact, if you see, it's not very difficult, not very complicated to follow this in our daily lives. In fact, respect for the other person is actually reflected how we treat the other person. We should learn and practice in treating other persons with sensitivity, whether in any kind of relationship, whether with our family members, friends, colleagues, anyone. We should be getting into the habit of treating others with sensitivity, because when we treat others aggressively and without considerations, we are in fact promoting negativity. And when we are promoting negativity, it is going to affect our relationships, and also, in fact, the relationship with the self. This leads to the important aspect on what exactly in the next 15 minutes we will focus on the different aspects and elements of non-violent communication and how we can imbibe in our daily life. Before that, it's so important to see what exactly is non-violent communication. In fact, Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Samiti is running a free online course on non-violent communication. And I would request Pankaj to kindly share the link in the chat box, so that those who are interested, they can go through the course. And it's a free online course, very simple, and they can, there are some reflection exercises, and they can reply to us, and all will be given a certificate of completion of that particular course. So let us get into that, on what exactly is nonviolent communication. And what we have been doing as part of Gandhi Smriti is, there is a beautiful explanation by a very, very senior Gandhian who passed away 2 years back, Shri Natwar Thakkar, and his explanation, he uses the Gandhian ideas of nonviolent communication to share. Now, when we talk of what is exactly a definition, it's like a definition of non-violent communication. So let me read out exactly what Natwar Thakkar ji says, and after that we will move to the elements of nonviolent communication. Natwar Thakurji says that to me, nonviolent communication literacy would mean how our communication efforts should be nonviolent, how our ability and capacity to communicate not only with ourselves but with our family and society be non-violent in all aspects, and overall how the entire process of communication, whether between individuals, groups, communities and the world at large, should be non-violent in nature. In fact, Natwar Thakurji goes to the extent of saying that there is a need to have a deep understanding of the art and science of nonviolence and its centrality in our daily actions. And he says that nonviolent communication entails not just verbal and nonverbal communication. It also includes whether our thoughts, ideas, and perspectives are nonviolent or not. In fact, he says that this would also mean how we can get rid of our preconceived notion of individuals or groups with whom we want to communicate and stop evaluating them to suit our own ideas. So this is what, in short, we can think of a small explanation of nonviolent communication. So now, in the last stage of this presentation, we will go into the key elements of nonviolent communication, and we need to really look at them critically so that we are able to imbibe, we are able to self-introspect and see how each one of them are extremely important for our well-being, and also how each one of the elements are interconnected to each other, which will help us to develop a holistic idea of how we should communicate. So first and foremost, as we take from Natwar Thakurji, it means the complete lack of violence in the way we communicate with others. It could be both. It is both, not just verbal and non-verbal communication. In fact, what is important is how we practice non-violence in our thoughts and ideas. Because, for instance, let us say I'm talking to someone and I am completely using, both my body language and the words or the language that I'm using is non-violent in nature, but in the back of my mind, I am actually abusing that particular person. So that's definitely not non-violent communication. Think of situations that you find yourself in many times during the day or during any time of your life, that you are forced sometimes to be very, very good with some person, but at the back of your mind, you are actually abusing that person. So that's not really, that is half-hearted attempt to be using non-violent communication. So it's so important that we need to even our thoughts and ideas, because we will not be able to connect properly with people if we are not having a positive attitude towards that person or positivity towards that person. Because the end of the day, our aim is trust building. What is also important in today's world is how we build trust, and non-violent communication is such an important aspect of trust building. So let us try to see how, by some way or the other, we practice to have a holistic approach when we are handling a person or handling a particular situation. Here, let me give you a caveat that there is no fixed formula of, say, A plus B equals to C or something like that when we are talking of non-violent communication. There is no magical formula. It has to come from within. We need to be committed to ourselves. Yes, I will be using the strategies of non-violent communication in our daily life. Because there is nothing, we may have different talks and webinars and all, but at the end of the day, if we are not doing it in practice, if we are not practical, then it comes to a cropper, the whole exercise. So let us try to see how each one of these elements are important. So the first and foremost, we have already talked of. Now we come to the next important element on how it is important to learn to be self-introspecting. Also, let us see, friends, when we are trying to talk, when we are trying to have a conversation with someone, before that, it is possible that we are going to have an inner dialogue. And in today's world, as we find, that with this whole lot of social media, so much of aggressive posturing, so much of situations where we find ourselves in, sometimes you will find, you just think of that, ki, inner dialogue could be destructive in nature. You see, the inner dialogue when we are doing, it could be both constructive and destructive. But in today's pressure cooker atmosphere environment that we live in, there is a possibility that we are, our inner dialogue becomes destructive in nature. And when our inner dialogue becomes destructive in nature, we are going to be destructive in our outer dialogue also. What is important is to find creative solutions for our feelings and needs and how we connect to ourselves. Because unless and until we are able to connect to ourselves through constructive inner dialogue, we will not be able to handle outside situations in a proper way. Then the third most important element, which we always fall into a trap, is that we must take responsibility of our actions, words, and feelings. Most of the time, probably, if you realize, if you go back to your conversation with people, when we are, very angry with someone, then we have a tendency to blame others for these. We feel that we are correct, not the others. But we should try to see how we take responsibility of our action, words, and feelings, and not just, blame others for that. Because what is important is use of appropriate language and words are key to nonviolent communication. Here comes an important aspect. Nonviolent communication, by using that, it helps us to reframe from the usual way that we have been used to talking to. It helps us to reframe that and to talk in a different way, which will not hurt the other person. It's a new way of thinking, new way of how we can handle situations, new way, reframing of our language. The same thing, I remember we had one workshop with the judicial officers of our district court here in Delhi. And after a month, I went back for a feedback session with the distinguished judicial officers and the lawyers there. So the president of the Bar Association over there, he said that after that session of yours, whenever I go to the court, because many times the lawyers are used to use aggressive posturing in the court. So he said that I realized that I can use what I want to say, I will say, but I can use it in a different way, which is not going to be aggressive, yet maneuver my way to ensure my point is heard. And he said that he realized that when he have used such kind of a language, such kind of a ways of reframing the way he has been used to doing, the impact has been much more than ever before. In fact, the famous African leader, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, he says that language is very powerful. It does not just describe quality, it creates the reality, and it describes. In fact, he says that we should take responsibility of our action, words, and feelings, and not blame others. And as someone said, that language is the key to the heart of people, and language is the thing which actually creates conflicts. So we need to create a situation, basically, to see how we are able to use language that brings forward our inherent compassion, and how our apathy and anger are going to dissolve, and also how we can promote mutual understanding, how we can cultivate new mutual understanding. Also, in non-violent communication, what is important is that we should avoid that, cruel language, aggressive posturing. Next important aspect of non-violent communication is that how we are able to communicate with respect, because mutual respect is the important ingredient of non-violent communication. Another important aspect which we find, many of you might be, might think that is very important. Many of you might realize that this is something we have been fallen into trap, is that we have probably seen that we have lost that whole art of listening. Listening is so important. We tend to, because of the various pressures that we live in, we tend to see that we don't listen to the other person properly, deeply. Whereas listening is extremely important and it helps us to develop greater connections. In fact, there is various research has shown that when we are sensitive to listening, it becomes a very, very potent agent for individual character development and also stimulating our deeper levels of humanity. And also it helps to us to grow when we listen to the other deeply. Also, let us say, have you ever realized that when you are talking and you realize the other person is listening to you completely and deeply, you will feel good about it. You will feel that you can share a lot with that particular person. So the listening is extremely critical and important, and we need to develop creative efforts to be a good listener. The next important element of nonviolent communication is to be conscious of the power of empathy. When we are empathizing with others or touching their humanness, then we are able to understand their problems. We are able to understand what is the situation. Empathy actually reduces the distance between us and the others. That is something very important. In fact, what is important again is that empathy is something which with others we are experiencing. What is to feel what others are experiencing and to resonate with them. There is a beautiful quote by the former American president President George Washington, who said that empathy is I think there was a technical problem, so unfortunately, there was some issue which I had to. Uh, so once again, we come to the other important aspect of a non-violent communication, that is compassion. Compassion is, again, we have already talked about it beforehand when we say that compassion is something which is extremely critical in today's world. Trying to, feel the concerns of others, trying to, understand the pain of others. So then we come to the next important aspect of non-violent communication, that is flexibility. Importance of flexibility. You see, Gandhi was telling, when we look at Gandhi's situation during the India's freedom struggle, even at the height of the freedom struggle, Gandhi always kept his channels of communication open. He was flexible in his communication. Even within our situation, say for instance, we are having a difference with someone. If we are not flexible, if we are not open in our communication efforts, there is every possibility of there being a breakdown in communication. And if there is a breakdown in communication, we will not be able to connect with that particular person or individual. So it's so important to understand the importance of flexibility in communication. The next important aspect is on gratitude. Another important aspect of nonviolent communication. In fact, gratitude, that is the whole art of thanking everyone for what they have done to us, or thanking the other person, or thanking that particular situation. In fact, it is the elevation of enjoyment. It is basically something which is a key dimensions which helps us to be joyful. There are various psychological studies which has been done, and these studies show how it is linked to the neurosciences of the brain, and how the more the expressions of gratitude that we express, that how it helps us to be less stressful. So gratitude is again an extremely critical aspect of nonviolent communication. Then the last important element is connecting to the needs of others. Again, extremely important, because when there is a difference of opinion with someone, then if we are not able to connect to the needs of that particular person, then we will not be able to gauge what made that particular person behave or talk in that particular manner. And there will be further complication in our relationship. There will be further complications in what we are trying to address with that particular person. But if we are able to connect critically at the needs level on what made that particular person behave in such a way, or how that particular person has been talking to us, how that particular person has been conversing with us, then it becomes much easier to dissolve our anger, much easier to dissolve the conflict that we are having. It helps us to make new connections. So friends, these are some of the important elements of nonviolent communication that we try to understand. And if you see, many of these important elements like empathy, compassion, the flexibility in our communication efforts, taking responsibility for our action, words, feelings, and not blaming others, then the most important, then connecting with the needs of others, trying to understand the critical needs of others. If we try to practice some of these in our daily lives, you will find that all of them will help us to become less stressful. Because at the end of the day, what we are looking at, because language is also like a nourishment, as I told at the start. If we are using healthy communication, it is going to nourish us. And if we are using unhealthy communication, it is not only going to make us unhealthy, we will be stressful, we will always be angry, we will feel that there are so much of problems and what is happening. So that is going to lead us to greater stress. And especially some time back, I was having such a session with a group of students, and they were talking in the context of the present pandemic. And we thought, if we are able to have some of these ideas into our ecosystem, we will be able to handle the pressures in a much, much better way. We will be able to handle difficult situations when there is so much of, hardened situation, probably during lockdown or otherwise. We will be able to handle them in a much better way. So, friends, let us try to see how we can imbibe them in practical ways in our daily lives to become transform ourselves into a better human being, and also transform our relationships with other people. So at the end, let me end with this beautiful quote of Mahatma Gandhi: little quarrels of millions of families in their daily lives disappear before the exercise of force. Two brother quarrels, one of them repents and reawakens the love that was lying dormant in him. The two again begin to live in peace. Friends, when we look at altruistic love, when we look at empathy, and when we look at compassion, altruistic love helps us to promote the whole idea of compassion. And in fact, empathy triggers the feelings of compassion. They're all interlinked. And let us see how we can trigger our compassion, how we can trigger our altruistic love, how we can trigger our empathetic attitude towards the others, so that we can help in contributing towards a culture of peace, as what some of the peace apostles like Gandhi, King, or Madiba had thought of. Friends, let us work together for human solidarity. Thank you. Now, if someone has questions, let us start with the question answer sessions.
Thank you very much, Vedya Bihar ji. I would like to request our participant and the panelists, please ask questions. This session is now open for question answer session. And this was a very informative, and as you explained, Vedya Bihar ji, it was very good, and we should take this kind of initiative forwards. Now the VC is open for question answer. Please raise your hand, put the question in the chat box, or you can put your mic, unmute your mic, and you can ask the question. Thank you so much.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Sure, please go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, and I'm Dr. Madhuri. I have listened very, very intently, and I think these values do touch our lives every day, but sometimes we tend to overlook them. Thanks for reminding us that we need to get connected. I actually want to ask two things for which I'm apprehensive about. Number one, that today Gandhi is unfortunately becoming a marketing strategy in the sense that how politicians are misusing him, and how otherwise the business folk or the people who want to manipulate are using Gandhi as a strategy, as a marketing strategy. Is there a way out of that? And secondly, it is also a humble plea. Like, I'm at Delhi University, I'm an associate professor here, but we are teaching Gandhian thought as a paper. But in school, can this be a part of the syllabi? Some kind of, small way we can make a beginning, that classes we start off right at the school times, at the time when children are just formulating their ideas, so that this can, mold them as later when they grow bigger. I think that perhaps, how can we work towards that? And thank you for a great session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Madhuri ji. As far as your question, first let us look at the second question first, probably, how we can integrate them in our schools. In fact, that is something very, very important when we are talking in the context of non-violent communication. In fact, as we have seen that non-violent communication essentially has emanated, it's essential in Eastern philosophy, and say emanated from the times of the Buddha, and in the modern times the greatest proponent being Mahatma Gandhi. We realize that possibly non-violent communication needs to be an essential part of the school system, and also not just the school system but also in the colleges. In fact, ma'am, as you said, you are teaching in Delhi University. The other day, just last week, we had an excellent session with students of the universities of Sri Lanka. And in fact, we found that they actually have a paper on non-violent communication. So what is important is that if each one of us try to see, you see, it's very difficult, as you know, would be to introduce straight away a subject called non-violent communication, possibly in the schools or in the university level. But how in our different curriculum, as we say, infusion in the curriculum, whether in the schools or in the colleges, how the different subjects that we teach, how we can integrate the different elements and aspects of non-violent communication, that could be the starting point. Also, possibly the starting point could be that if the teachers or the professors are convinced, then how in their classes they can bring in some of the subjects that they are teaching, how they can bring in elements of that, because at the end of the day, for each action of ours, there is an element of communication that is involved. So when we are, pushing, or we are getting the students to think creatively, reflecting creatively, how we can help them to integrate and imbibe some of these elements of non-violent communication, that would be the ingenuity of the teachers, possibly. And the first question, definitely, that is an issue when we are talking that some people, some groups might be trying to market Gandhi and all. That is always, of course, not really good enough, but probably we need to all work together, those who are really committed to really do something more constructive and more in a more committed way, so that we are able to bring some difference in the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Madhuri. Thank you very much for this question. We have, am I audible? I think we have a question from Madam Saran, Chandravit Saran, if I'm pronouncing the name well. The question is, what are the rules or code of conduct to observe to maintain respect and appreciation?
Well, rules or code of conduct, actually, if, we should not look at it from the point of view of rules or code of conduct. It has to be, inner self. Like from my inner self, from my inner dialogue, I should try to be committed to see that I respect. First and foremost, I must respect myself. And then when I am able to respect myself, I will be able to respect the others. So there cannot be any hardcore rules or code of conduct that you need to do this. It has to come from within, and it has to come from the self-realization, as I told in the beginning, on the importance of human interdependence, interconnectedness. If we think that your problem is my problem or your suffering is my suffering, then a lot of issues becomes clearer, gets resolved, and we are able to respect each other or appreciate the positive things that are happening here. I give an example, for example, like possibly sometimes we might get angry when we are talking of appreciation. Then it could be that we become very angry, we are howling at our friends or someone who is sitting beside us and things like that. How many times we think that we would see from the window and see some beautiful flowers around, and if you see those, in fact, one of my senior teacher who has been my senior in one of the previous organizations I worked, he said that whenever he gets angry, he looks out of the window and tries to see the beautiful flowers around, and that actually calms him down. What is important is that how we can appreciate positive things, and it will help us calm us down, because when we are angry, there are so much of negative energies around us. So how we can channelize the anger into positive energies by positive appreciation? Possibly those are the things. It has to come from within. That is important. Yes, please. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. Dr. Manish here from Punjab University, Chandigarh. I'm from the Department of Indian and Peace Studies.
That's right.
These days, we are facing the problem that in the education system, we are following the 3R, read, write, and arithmetic, whereas Gandhi asked for the 3H, hand, and heart. So, can we approach now the government of India that we need to change our education policy, because we are still following the Machiavellian approach. We are still following the system where we are creating the white collar gentlemen. So how, because as Gandhi had talked about in his Nai Taaleem, that we need to change the education system. So it's the right time that we should start some kind of movement that we should change the education system where after graduation or after doing their master's degree or after moving out of the colleges or university, the student will not be find any difficulty in getting the employment. So in case if Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Smriti can do something in this regard, then it would be very beneficial for the whole student community. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, definitely. And we should have more discourses vis-a-vis Gandhi's approach to education and look at it, how it can help in the transformation of a human being. So possibly with a lot of discussion at different levels with different stakeholders, possibly we can do a better job in trying to convince on the Gandhian approach to education. Definitely.
Thank you, Dr. Manish. We have Assistant Professor of Political Science from Sri Kerala Burma College, Thrissur, Professor Arun Karipal, and it's not a question, but he says, excellent presentation, soul-to-soul communication is the need of the hour. Thank you, sir. We have Madam Shashikala Samdadia, and she has quoted the Jain principle saying that human race is one. So, and she has a question. So how human solidarity can be strongly upheld in our day-to-day life in present context? Dr. Kundi, if you have heard me.
Yes. So it's a very important point of view that how we can promote or encourage human solidarity in the present context, especially in the situation of the pandemic. In fact, as a student of, let me share with you, as a student of communication, I've been trying to look at various social media, especially the Facebook, over the period ever since we have had this pandemic. And generally, you find in the social media, like at one situation where people are very, it's what I described as frozen communication. They are not even, they don't know each other, and everything is down to likes and putting different emojis and things like that. There is no real, what we say, soul-to-soul communication, or no real communication as such. But what I found, if one has to critically analyze various posts in the social media, find that there is a greater aspect of human solidarity between people, cutting across culture, cutting across countries and world across. And people are concerned, say people of India are concerned about people in other countries, individuals. If I have a friend in other countries, I remember at the initial stage when we had the lockdown and all, this friend who is a peace researcher from Madagascar, she said that I pray that all your family members remain safe and all of you remain good, and you must take care of yourself. So you find, possibly though, of course, according to a very well-known Czech philosopher, what he describes as the solidarity of the shaken, because when we are all shaken, then we tend to come together. So that's what he describes as solidarity of the shaken. But this pandemic has shown us that it's so very important that we remain in, there is a strong need to promote and encourage global solidarity so that we fight such kind of situations together and not have fragmentation. Of course, this is a very important principle, I suppose, and this needs to be there in our day-to-day life in the present context. Next, please. Anyone else?
There is a
yes, we
question
have
from
Dr.
Kajal as
Krishan.
well.
Yes.
There is a question from Kajal as well.
Hello.
Would you like to take it up? Can I read it for you?
Vedaji, can you?
Yes, please. Yeah, please. Anyone?
Devon Herbal.
Okay.
There is a question from her.
Yeah.
We should take this as a special subject in schools and make it an interactive talk with the students, bringing out their thoughts, as today children are so influenced by social media. So would you like to take it up?
Yes, in fact, when we are, as I told in the beginning, that especially in the context of the social media, there must so much of aggressive posturing and those use of hate narratives and hate speeches that are there. And as I said, that last June, the United Nations was supposed to come out with a framework and a plan of action to fight hate speech. The whole idea of using non-violent communication as to promote people and individuals to become peace motivators or non-violent communicators to handle the aspects of hate speech and radicalization in the online platforms is very, very critical. So more than ever before, we need to infuse and inculcate amongst young people the whole idea of non-violent communication so that they are able to contribute constructively to challenge all these violence and hatred that is there in the online platforms. definitely.
Thank you so much. There is a question from Dr. Krishan Murari Gupta, and he's asking, how will a person handle other when he or she is very aggressive?
Sorry, can you repeat again, please?
How will a person handle the other person when someone else, he or she, is aggressive?
Okay. Basically, when someone else is aggressive, or when someone else, we have a difference of opinion with others, most of the time what we tend to do is that because we are talking in the context of communication, we also tend sometimes to be equally aggressive, and that leads to a breakdown in communication. Because as I mentioned, that if there is a breakdown in communication and there is no communication between the two people who are quote unquote adversaries, then there is a possibility of the relationship getting affected. What is important is that, as we discussed, how we can use our strategies of non-violent communication to maneuver our way to a situation where there is the channel of our communication with that particular person remains open. There is no breakdown, and in different ways we are able to reach out to that person, so that, because what the world has seen, as many of what examples that I shared with you, and many examples from our own situations, that if we fight aggressiveness with aggressiveness, that person becomes more aggressive. But if we are using these strategies, then there is a possibility that that person, there could be, the idea is to transformation of that person from being aggressive to become more constructive in the relationship. Also, it is important, as I mentioned, to understand the critical needs of that particular person on why he or she is behaving in that way, and possibly we will unearth that there are some serious problem that he or she might be facing, and then we will be able to dissolve that whole dispute that is there with that person. So we have to use different strategies instead of being ourselves being aggressive. We will never be able to resolve a problem by being overtly aggressive with that particular person. And as we have seen from history, that those who use non-violent communication, they're never weak. In fact, as Gandhi says, non-violence is not for the cowards, it's for the brave. And we have seen that you can use it very, very properly to get better results. Yes. Next, please.
We have Milind Acharya, who is asking, what is your opinion about the relationship between nonviolent communication and the never-ending desires of human beings, with special reference to environmental degradation?
It's a very, very important observation or insight, I should say, because at the start of the pandemic, if many of you might have read this beautiful piece by the famous British primatologist Dr. Jane Goodall, and she says that more forests and the habitats of the wildlife we are destroying, they are coming closer to the human habitats, and a large number of viruses are getting transmitted. It's a matter of great concern. And as we have said, that non-violent communication enables us to understand the importance of human interconnectedness, that we are all connected to the nature, human, and all other living beings. Unless and until we as human beings don't understand this in a very, very critical way, we are going to have a losing battle with not just the COVID-19, but other pandemics which might follow. So it's so important that we are non-violent communicators in real sense. And as Dr. Jane Goodall has warned, there are several other scientists who have warned that how we are destroying the environment and forests are leading to serious problems of climate change and other related issues. And we as human beings will be solely responsible for the destruction that might follow. It's a very, very important observation, and it's again important that how we as individuals come together to see how we can challenge them using various strategies of nonviolent communication.
Thank you so much. We have Mr. A.R. Patil, who is said, sir, can the government of India within brackets he writes, Gandhi Smriti and Darshan Samiti and Human Resource Development Department introduced Nayi Talim basic education in the time of COVID-19 situation now. I think this system will promote children in peace.
Yes, I think
a valid point, yes.
Yes, valid point, and probably Rajdeep, we can all think of having some sessions on Gandhi's policy approach to education, or sustainable education for that matter.
Yeah. We have another question, not a question, perhaps also a response. Sita Dallo, and I'm just quoting, I believe that social media should be considered as a useful tool to educate people on relevant topics and to share information on a much larger scale to a wider audience. Thank you, Sita ji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it is very important. I think Veda ji is also taking many sessions on media literacy, and he can, maybe another session on media literacy will help you understand the dynamics of this thing. Any other questions, or we move ahead and hand it over to Renu Sharma ji again. And please join the course. The links have been shared in the free course by our colleague, Madam Ms. Prerna, and so please join these courses on nonviolent communication. These are free orientation courses. Sita Dallo is from.
I think we don't have any more questions. Can we call it off? And may I invite Rajdeep? Anybody has any question?
One observation.
Yeah, please introduce yourself, sir. Please introduce yourself, sir.
I am Fazil Elahi from Srinagar, J&K. I work as a teacher in Institute of Advanced Studies in Education. I am a teacher trainer. It was nice hearing from you about non-violent communication, soul-to-soul connection, and working with empathy, developing engagements where you can say conflict resolution could take place. All said and done, in many of the places we know that conflict is raging, and particularly I belong to a place where the conflict has been raging for the past 25 years. And working towards this kind of non-violent communication becomes quite difficult and challenging in an atmosphere where you can say a lot of violence is an order of the day. I would like to learn from you because the other day I was just talking to with Abbas ji when we were talking about having a kind of interaction with our students in our own institution. So the kind of challenges we face here as far as non-violent communication is concerned, because seeing violence all through their lives, students tend to be a bit more averse to non-violent communication. They say that violence is the order of the day, and every day, day in and day out, they see violence here and there. So where do you find any kind of scope for non-violence? This is usually the contention of our students who come to our college or even in the schools. So it becomes quite difficult to just engage with our own students and our own people and brethren all around who just can say are quite sometimes very averse and even critical. When, for example, you go and engage with them and try to just tell them that there have to be certain non-violent ways of engaging and resolving the conflict. So they become quite critical and they just say that this is quite, say, unrealistic of us when we talk about such kind of non-violent measures. I need to know from you, and I understand that we need to engage, but somehow more difficulties than ease. Thank you very much.
Definitely, we would like to work with you, with your College of Education, and possibly try to have greater engagement with your students and see the different possibilities and opportunities for students to creatively engage themselves in non-violent communication, because at the end of the day, it is when we are at peace with ourselves, when we are trying to promote this whole idea in our families, within our friends, within our circles, when all of them put together, we will be able to have a greater transformative situation of greater understanding of the importance of peace in our daily lives. Definitely there are a lot of challenges, but history has said that when we are able to creatively and constructively engage with the whole idea of peace and non-violence, we will be able to do a greater good. So I think it would be very exciting to work with your students to see how we can contribute to a culture of peace together. I'm really looking forward to have sessions to creatively engage with your students there in Srinagar. Definitely.
I think we should now, I invite Rajdeep Pathak to formally thank everybody, and we should wind up because it's already 9:45, and decided to do it 1 hour 45 minutes session. So thank you everybody, and Vedabhyaji, it's very, very informative, and as everybody recommended that we should do something to introduce such courses in university and colleges. Let's work together and start introducing these kind of courses not only in India but abroad, because this is the need of the hour. The COVID and the coronavirus has taught nature has shaken us and taught us that it is high time we have to find the corrective measure and correct ourselves. Thank you so much. Uh, can I invite Rajdeep Pathak to formally thank everybody?
Yes, thank you, Renuji. Thank you so much. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah,
yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you, Renuji. Thank you. I should begin with by thanking His Excellency Shri Arun Kumar Sahuji, the High Commissioner of Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. I should thank him for his observations, for the wonderful remarks that he had made, and I think one thing that has remained with me from what he had said is violence can never be a tool in balancing power. Thank you for making this point, making this remark and giving us this thought-provoking remark. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Dr. Pandita Iraniji. Thank you very much. As you said, the message of Mahatma Gandhi is very relevant, and at a time when